Hi there, and welcome to London. I'm in an Uber right now on my way to Terminal 5, the home of British Airways at Heathrow Airport. I'm a little bit hesitant to even call this a flight. This experience is one that I've been looking forward to, not since I started the channel a few years ago, not since I started traveling more like 15 years ago, but since 1995. Literally since 1995. I was a bit of a child travel agent, if you will, and British Airways First Class was such an aspirational thing to me from such a young age that I'd even venture to say this channel may not exist had it not been for a wingback chair and a framed window view. I promise I'll make this all make sense. I arrived at the airport a fairly comfortable 5.5 hours prior to departure to ensure that I not only had enough time to film the entire experience for you, but also to actually soak it in myself. All of that, of course, had to start off with some plane spotting, even before I headed inside. Before we head inside, let me welcome any of you that may be new to the channel. My name is Kevin, and I am the Flip-Flop Traveler. I'm a full-time creator with an eye to the skies and the beaches, and I enjoy my flip-flops nearly as much as I enjoy being honest and unclickbaity in my self-funded videos. If you'd like to know more about the channel, or me, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Have a look around the channel. There are hundreds of airline and hotel reviews to enjoy. This ode to BA First begins now. I love how close the drop-off area is to the end of the runway, but the little tiny slats that you need to film through, if you're here to film, are crazy small if you're trying to get a good shot. The check-in hall is really large, but I gotta say the layout is a little bit odd. I mean, like, this terminal was opened in 2008, but it has all of the check-in desks oriented in a straight line the old-fashioned style. There seems to be plenty of space to orient the lines the other way, like most modern airports do these days. As is very clear, BA still very much dominates here, and only shares their space with Iberia, who they merged with in 2011. That merger created their parent company, IAG, and together they also own AerLingus, Level, and Vueling. For a little perspective of how much BA dominates this airport, next month they have around 6,800 departures. The next largest airline, Virgin, has under 1,000. This video is the finale to my Roots and Hub series, and I'm showing you this video out of order as a way to celebrate the end of the series. Today's video will be a bit different though. No airport facts, no history, about the airport at least. We already went through all of that. Today, it's about the first experience. At Heathrow, that begins with first-class check-in areas at the far end of the hall. Inside the exclusive area, also accessible for One World Emerald, you'll find loads of open desks and then 2 private security screening lines that will lead you directly into the first-class lounge. The first-class lounge is a very nice space, perhaps a bit busier than I was expecting, but nice nonetheless. Contrary to the name though, the people sitting in here likely are not flying first class. They're probably all One World Emerald. For those actually flying first, you have access to the Concorde room, which is within the first class lounge, similar to how Singapore Airlines has their first class lounge and also the private room. That Concorde is a great way to pivot to my story as we look around. Back in the day, before I was born, my mother worked for the airlines in the US. While working for the airlines these days surely has its perks, they're nothing compared to in the 70s. This was the era of the Concorde, which had its inaugural flight from London to Bahrain in 1976. So, as a perk of the job, my parents had the opportunity to fly to London round trip, over in the Concorde and back in first, for an absurdly low bundle of fees. We're talking like sub $100 in today's dollar range. It appears that menu collection didn't just start with me and the family, as they saved their original Concorde menus as well. So that's the first half of the story that built up my anticipation for today. I'll tell you the rest of it as we look around the Concorde room. The Concorde room is a series of seating spaces inside and out on the faux terrace. There's excellent table service throughout the space, as well as a very beautiful bar. The highlight of the Concorde room, though, is the Concorde dining. I love how private all of the small booths are here. I started out with a glass of Lance and Rosé, which was very nice and goes for around $70 a bottle. Also on offer was the Paris-Kuwait, which goes for around $180. My meal here is actually one of the reasons why I got to the airport so early. I wanted to be able to, actually eat here and then again on the plane. The things you do. I started with the smoked chalk stream trout, an 8.9 out of 10. For the main, something that I'd normally never order in a lounge, a first class lounge nonetheless, but it's famous here, so I got the Concorde burger. I appreciate the burger for not trying to be too gourmet-y. I could easily see how a burger topped with foie gras, truffles, and a roasted leek butter, and a bunch of other unnecessary stuff, could end up on this menu, and I respect that it didn't. 9.2 out of 10, because false bottom tiny servings of fries should just be illegal. Overall, it was a great experience in the Concorde room, but I do need to ask, why are the bathrooms literally straight off of a cruise ship? TWA is generally credited with being the first airline with a true first class, but from what I can tell, this might not be correct. In 1927, Imperial Airways, the predecessor to the predecessor of BA, created second class. Second class compared to the class that they already had operating since 1924. So, I don't know how your math works, but to me, second class implies that there is a first class. So that tells me that Imperial was the first to have first. Regardless of where it started though, the first class experience has evolved massively over the decades. In 1949, BOAC launched transcontinental first class service on their Boeing Stratocruiser flights, where complimentary cigarettes were offered upon takeoff and after meals as a way to create a celebratory and somewhat carcinogenic atmosphere on board. Since there was no in-flight entertainment, BOAC was so focused on food that they would fly the route to Paris extra slowly, making the flight 80 minutes long so that first class could enjoy a leisurely lunch. The 70s brought the Concorde, and the 80s brought British Airways' first major development in the cabin in a while, the Crown first class seat, which went nearly flat. In 1989, they invested heavily in improving the seating concept, but it was still, at its core, just a recliner. Then came 1995. This is when BA named their first class simply First. They introduced the world's first truly fully horizontal flatbed on any commercial passenger airline. Designed by yacht interior specialists, the seats were the original reverse herringbone design. The design that still persists until today in BA First. The seats have certainly evolved multiple times after that, but really, this is the time that piqued my interest. Beginning in the 90s, my father began to travel a lot for work, and because I genuinely wanted to, I promise, I literally booked every flight and hotel that he ever needed for 10 years. He used to fly Virgin to London, but I became a little bit obsessed with BA First. Just the very un-airplane-like design of it. The wingback seats, the frame duo of windows, the personal TV, the burled walnut galore. I also loved Jaguars at the time, so I suppose there's a through line here somewhere. I remember a return ticket to London at the time was around $7,000 in First and $11,000 on the Concorde. I used to search for the prices regularly, even though there was literally no chance that I'd ever be booking it. And so, I think you can see why this flight today was as aspirational as it was for me, and is in just a different league than flying Emirates First or Singapore Airlines First, etc. Terminal 5 is split in three parts: the head house where the A gates are, and then the B and C concourses, which are each their own satellite, accessed by train. BA has first and business class lounges in the head house, as well as a business class lounge in the B satellite. Let me explain a little bit about why I'm going to Kuwait of all places. This was an Avios ticket. British Airways prices their reward tickets based on actual distance flown, split into tiers, and they also have off-peak and peak pricing. At the time of my booking, Lagos and Kuwait were the only two flights offered in First in that lowest points tier category. in this case 42,500 Avios. For Nigeria, I would have needed an embassy visa, so Kuwait was just much easier of a choice. As with all Heathrow originating award flights though, the taxes and fees are steep. Mine totaled around $615. This is because the airport tax here is on a sliding scale based on the class of service that you're flying. Either way though, I'm not complaining. 42,000 Avios plus fees I think is kind of a steal, especially considering you'd be hard pressed to find a business class ticket to New York for under like 80,000 Avios. I've actually seen times when the first class redemptions to New York were a little bit less than the business class tickets. And here's our 4-year-old 787-10 now. Boarding began around 10 minutes behind schedule, and it was very quickly apparent that this would not be a sold-out flight. In first, there were just 2 of us. The Kuwaiti and Bahraini services are actually due to be terminated this April though. But there is currently a widespread petition process going on in both countries to try to somehow convince BA to stay. So, we'll see. The cabin in first and business for that matter is laid out in a 1-to-1 configuration, and due to a bit of poor planning on BA's part, on some of their aircraft, this one included, business class has doors, but first class does not. It's not a big deal since the seat is still relatively private, but still a little bit odd. The most recent update to the first class seat has new doors, but it's only on a limited number of planes. That said, the first cabins are absolutely gorgeous. Lots of black and gray, hues of champagne, and pops of white are the color palette in its entirety, and I absolutely love it. Let's have a look around the seat, and I'll call out the things that I do or don't like about it. Headrests are a double-edged sword in most cases. You want it to be seated comfortably, but you don't want it when you're sleeping, so a flush-mounted adjustable headrest would have been appreciated. I do love how much compartmentalized storage there is around the seat. If you're enjoying the video and want to see more, please go ahead and click that like button, and more importantly, subscribe. If you're looking for lots more information about my travel in general, weekly posts, advanced itineraries, travel advice and the like, or just want to show your support to the channel, I'd invite you to check out my Patreon or YouTube channel memberships. Everything is nicely refined and in great condition. Most people refer to BA First as the world's best business class, a jab at it for being for a cross-reverse herringbone, but it truly feels so much more spacious than any business class out there. That said, just this past November, BA did announce a completely new first cabin which will abandon the reverse herringbone configuration for the first time since 1995. The new cabins will be installed on their A380s next year, and their 777Xs on order will be delivered with them as well. For pre-departure beverage, I went with the Lanson Noble Brut, which goes for a bit over $220 a bottle. I like how the footrest can be adjusted if you have shorter legs to bring it forward or push it away. And bravo to BA for having what are easily the most comfortable slippers that I've ever received on a plane, and they fit too. Unfortunately, no overhead air vents, which really does surprise me on an airline like BA. That said, the cabin was kept nice and cool. Roasted nuts and a hot towel were also offered. At some point, one of the two crew supporting First came over and apologized to me because they said the menus hadn't been loaded onto the flight. I was bummed that I wouldn't be able to collect it, but she offered to airdrop it to me. I told her I already have the menu, and she nearly dropped her teeth. If you're flying First, you can email or call the UFirst hotline and request your flight-specific menu in advance. I presume there are other functions to this hotline as well, but that's the only need I had for it. Luckily enough, though, they did find the menus. The original safety briefing began, and we pushed back, taking off just before the last light was gone, with beautiful views of central London on my side of the aircraft.
British Airways First Class holders. If you'd like to find out more about our Concorde American Express, please visit va.com/Amex. Working with today is Gerard. Gerard will be working with Traveller Plus. May I remind you to keep your seatbelt fastened whenever your seat stick must remain securely fastened with the seatbelt sign as well. When opening overhead lockers, please take care of items removed, pull out and pause in the As a reminder, smoking including e-cigarettes, vaping, and using other smoking devices that can be used any time whilst on board is to use the toilet street. Your physically smoke detector. If you're seated in personal club well, please take care of your personal electronic device when adjusting your seat. If your device does get lost, please do not move the seat, just let one of us know. We are pleased that we want to start free on-board Wi-Fi messaging service for all executive club members. Should join on to today's flight. Connect to VA Wi-Fi or join our Executive Club, visit shop.va.com, where you can access free messaging and discover more offers available. To keep up to date with the latest travel trends, find your original guide to your destination and tips on how to make the most of your time at the start. With the digital version of Airline magazine, read.air, which you can find on your personal
Let's take a look at the amenities on offer. There are quite a few of them. I love the herringbone pattern that they use throughout the First experience. It's just really subtle and well done, and it covers the very soft throw blanket. The pillow on offer is a proper pillow that you'd find in any nice hotel. And there's also a small bolster pillow. The pajamas I'm not sold on. I know that the satin collar is meant to be classy, but I actually think it makes it look pretty cheap. Here you can get a sense of the level of privacy of the seat. Only if you truly stick your head out beyond the divider like I'm doing here can you get a view like this of your neighbor. The amenities kit is nicely stocked with LMS products, but the bag itself is black suede and attracts every piece of lint in the entire cabin. I do love that there's a BA First pen though. Let's take a look at tonight's full menu. Remember that the red prices on the menu are my addition to give you an idea of the bottle retail prices. Now it's time to get into the first meal service, but I do need to point out one very fitting little coincidence. When my parents took the Concorde, their starter was smoked trout, and so too was my first canapé. I know smoked trout is popular, I had it in the lounge too, but let me just have my moment. In addition to the smoked trout donut, we had a minted pea tartlet and smoked duck with asparagus and truffle roll. Each of these in their own right was delicious and well prepared, but the trout donut was definitely the star. 9.3 out of 10 overall. As British as the canapés were, I decided to switch to the British bubbles, the Haddingly Valley Blanc de Noir, which I was surprised to find that I preferred. For the starter, I had the dry-aged West Country beef carpaccio with tarragon brown butter sabayon, green beans, and Yorkshire pecorino. The pecorino is what sold me on the dish, being my favorite cheese, but the brown butter sabayon was really what shined the most. This was as good of an appetizer as you could possibly get in the air. I'll go for a 9.9 out of 10. For the main course, I went with the contemporary Cornish fish stew with wild black bream, scallops, grilled prawns, and steamed monk's beard. There was also a side of roasted vegetables. This was certainly unconventional, but it was very flavorful. Everything was just on the brink of being a little bit over, but all in all, I think it was a very nice dish, an 8.4 out of 10. For dessert, I had the strawberries and cream with tangy raspberry sorbet. This selection is a product of me reaching my caloric limit, since I definitely prefer the chocolate tart, and I also skipped the cheese for the same reason. The strawberries were fresh, and for what it is, it did it well. 8 out of 10. Let's take a look at the entertainment. It's a great crisp screen, and there's a wide selection of titles and TV shows available. The noise-canceling headphones are of a decent quality, but my favorite part of the whole system was the moving map, which was definitely one of the better ones that I've seen recently. There was also complimentary Wi-Fi for first passengers, and it was easy to set up and worked pretty well throughout the flight. Since there were just 2 of us in first, the crew made up the bed in the center for me. The bed had a proper mattress pad, and that duvet was heavenly. I genuinely don't know why so many premium airlines do not have wonderfully fluffy duvets. As far as bedding goes, BA wins hands down compared to any other airline that I've flown. I enjoyed a nightcap of Johnny Walker Blue Label and had a solid 90-minute, maybe 2-hour nap. By the time I woke up, I was treated to a very Rothko-esque sunrise. The bathrooms on board were kept spotless, but the variety of amenities inside was kind of shockingly sparse. The one downside of only having 2 passengers in first is that for breakfast, they only load one of everything. The other passenger just by chance ordered breakfast before me, and so I missed out on my first choice for the starter and for the main course. That said, this was like 2.5 hours after I shoved those strawberries and cream in my mouth, so I did survive. I had some coffee and a fruit plate for the starter, which was nicely presented, but I don't know, the fruit was dry? The croissants were very nice though. This mix is an 8.1 out of 10. For the main, I chose the sweet curd pancakes with mascarpone, maple syrup, mixed berries, and mango. Generally, one of the last things that I would ever order unless it was time for dessert. Actually, I'm just going to rate this as a dessert. For that, it was a 9 out of 10. The pancakes themselves were wonderfully light and fluffy. And with that, my 12-hour first class experience, which was only in the air for 6 hours, was coming to a close. So before we switch to landing mode, let me talk a bit about the service. It was wonderful. It was charming. It was genuinely two of the nicest crew that I've ever come across. I think both of them were nervous to an extent. You might be thinking, they're nervous because they see you filming and they don't want you to trash them. But I don't think that was it. Camera or no camera, I think they knew both passengers in first were on aspirational, not operational flights. And they just really wanted to make sure that the full experience was as good as it could possibly be. For that, I am truly grateful, given how much I was looking forward to this flight. Alright, let's descend into the sand forest. I actually just took a really big sigh. Months later, it was still that good. Because some routes are semi-obtainable due to lower points required, I can imagine this is probably the first class product that I'd most likely fly on again in the coming years. I don't have anything booked, nor am I looking, but it was just a really pleasant experience overall. And I look forward to trying it again, especially in those new cabins that are coming. And here I am in Kuwait City, where I have a 7-hour layover before flying to a mystery destination on a mystery airline. But that is for a later date. We'll now be returning to my original order of flights and train rides coming up this month. So I really do hope that you enjoyed this trip report as much as I did. If you did, please be sure to click that like button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on my twice weekly videos. I'll see you next time from, well, this is awkward. I'll see you next time from London for a pair of flights which just wanted to go wrong. Oh, and as always, thanks for watching until the end.